Shalom royalty, it's Ellie here. So I just got out of the bath. I took a spiritual bath. That's what I usually do on Sundays. And I feel awesome, as expected. And while I was in my bath, I was listening to a video from Foster eBay. And he was talking about the indigo children, crystal children, rainbow children, that concept. Basically the newer generation being of a different kind. We're not like how the older generations are. And there's no disrespect to people who are older, but face the facts. You know, I know sometimes we get uptight when y'all say things like, oh, this new generation this and this new generation that. But sometimes, yeah, it'd be accurate. We are a different breed, literally. We are not cut from the same cloth. We do not come from the same place that you guys come from. That means several different things. So, of course, we didn't grow up in the environment that you all grew up in. But we also will not and have not had the same struggles that you all had. And is that a bad thing? No. Is that a good thing? We can't say. You know, in a lot of ways, we can say it's a good thing. Pause. What I just did was I put my sweet mint leaves that were in my bathtub. I put them back in here in the sweet mint plant. And that's what I do. And it makes the plant grow like really big. Like this is my newest plant. And it grew like a lot bigger than this one. And this was one of the first plants that I got. So, yeah, that's just what I do. But anyway, but with all that being said, though, what does this mean? What does this mean for the future? All this means for the future is that we are amongst change. Things are very different from how they used to be. No, I was not here when certain things were happening, but my parents were heavily involved, well, they are involved too, but involved in a lot of things that were causing change in our society. And I do a lot of research and I learned a lot of history. And so I was in AP history back when I was in like regular school. And it was like some things, it was like, okay, it's understandable why we're learning certain things, but in other situations, it's kind of confusing on why we have to know certain things. But you know, all that aside, it's just time for things to be different. And it's like, well, things are already different enough. You know, there's been a lot of adaptations, technological advances. That's all cool and all. But I mean, like, as far as how we do life, you know, people will demonize, you know, like I remember I was talking to my grandfather one time when he was still alive, rest in peace. He was angry when I brought some cotton to his house. I had a cotton plant. I think I either got it from school or like I found it somewhere and I thought it was cool. I thought it was pretty and I just had it with me everywhere and I brought it to his house and he was like, get that out of my face. And for one thing, I was not in his face. I was sitting across the room. And so I was like, I get it. You know, you're old. You're still kind of hurt from slavery and everything. But when you think about it, first of all, I live in Tennessee. There are still farmers, cotton farmers who are here, who own their own farms. So instead of just being upset about slavery, why not take it upon yourself to innovate and be a farmer for yourself? You know, hire the family, hire other black people, and actually make sure people get compensated properly for their work instead of thinking about it in a slave way. So that's what I mean. And the man was like, I don't know. He was either in his late 70s or early 80s when he said that. And it's like, oh, that's disrespectful. And it's like, yeah, that was disrespectful for him to say that. Was it disrespectful for me to have a plant with me? No. And the thing is, he liked planting. He loves gardens and stuff. But it was the cotton that was a trigger for him. And it's like, you know, are the older generations putting their struggles, putting their pain, putting their trauma on the newer generations? You really have to ask yourself questions like that, because even in my circumstance, I have to make sure that any past issues that I had with my ex-husband, I don't put that onto my son. I remember back when, you know, I was younger, my mom would say negative things about my dad, you know, unknowing about, you know, how things work sometimes. And then when I got to grow a relationship with my dad, I was like, yeah, those things either aren't true or they were part of the past and they have nothing to do with me. That's something y'all have beef with. It's not not part of my beef. So you have to make sure that you're not taking any old beef and bringing it in and trying to create new beef for new people just because you're salty about something. Salty also means bitter. Salty also means, basically like, like upset about something, uptight about something, just leave the situation where it is. And Foster said something that was very interesting. He said that a lot of indigo children are the parents of their parents. And I'm like, dang, that makes a lot of sense, man. That makes a lot of sense, because it'll be like situations where a younger person is guiding an older person through something. And it's not always about technology. Like, I know it'll be like, you're trying to work a new technological device, or an older person's trying to work a newer device, and the younger person is able to help them within 2 seconds when it took that older person 30 minutes to get halfway where that younger person got. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about when it comes to wisdom, when it comes to having insight on certain things, being able to think outside of the box, not being conformed to the matrix so much to where they don't have their own mind. That's what I mean. So like, I have unpopular opinions when it comes to politics a lot. And so I made a video on this. It was like why a lot of spiritual people are Trump supporters. A lot of us don't actually like Donald Trump when he was running. For those of you who want him to win in 2024, I hope you just understand that it'll be too late by then for him to accomplish the things that he was trying to accomplish from 2020 on. It's not going to be the same even if he is to win in 2024. So just focus on what's going on right now, and don't even focus on Donald Trump right now. Just take that to God and figure out why I said that. But anyway, so it was like, why do so many of us support Donald Trump? Because if you can't see what's happening right now with the current administration, then you're obviously blind. Because these things wouldn't be happening. Yeah, sure, we don't have like crazy tweets going out every once in a while, or every day. We don't have crazy tweets going out every day anymore. But would you rather have crazy tweets and a good administration and good politics and things like, do y'all not remember that it was Donald Trump that helped Israel? For those of you who are pro-black, who are pro-Bible, who are pro, peace and love and everything, did y'all forget that it was Donald Trump who did the good things for Israel? And now, as soon as Joe Biden got in office, he signed an executive order, if I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't an executive order, then it was something that he got done very, very rapidly. He took away what Donald Trump did for Israel, and now they're in a war with Palestine. Okay, are you not seeing that? This is a spiritual attack. This has nothing to do with politics. And government is a spiritual gift. Look it up in the Bible. It is something that is ordained by God. And a lot of these people who are in office right now are not ordained by God to run anybody. That's why you have the fivefold ministry. And also, when you go into religion specifically, a lot of churches are not operating by the fivefold ministry, which is also biblically out of line. So we can go back and forth with that type of stuff all day. Because I'm an indigo child, I am not the type of person to just go along with something just because it's what I've been taught. I've been taught a lot of things. And once I got into the Bible for myself, once I got into spirituality for myself, and I learned a lot of things for myself and grew my own relationship with God instead of listening to what somebody else had to tell me, things became a lot easier and a lot simpler, although I became less popular. When it comes to certain things and certain opinions, I don't care, because at the end of the day, who's here to change my life? Nobody but the Most High and myself. My higher being, which is God, which is me, which is all of you. He lives in all of us, but you have to choose to enact whatever it is he has going on in your life. A lot of people get into the matrix system. And when I say matrix system, I mean the typical, the machine, trying to live the American dream. Like, you go to school, go to college specifically. They specifically like to push college. Very recently did trades become more popular. Because like a lot of these things, you used to be able to just go through life and do what you wanted to do, but they made a machine for my generation for a reason. So I'm not saying that college is a bad thing. We do need people who are certified in certain areas and everything like that. I'm just saying, they push this narrative that you need to go to school, you need to go to college, you need to get a degree, you need to get a good job, and then retire after 40, 50 years of working the same job. That is what they are programming all of us to do. And so for all of us who don't follow that program, they like to say things, about us. They like to give us medical conditions. They like to say all these types of things. So like Foster said in his video, he was talking about how they diagnose these kids with like special needs. My mom used to teach special needs kids and still does, deal with special needs kids at the new school she's at. And I'm like, a lot of these kids aren't even special needs. They just are beyond what humans here can handle. Humans here don't really understand having more than one thought at one time. I can process that because it's like, okay, how do you expect somebody who's having constant thoughts all the time to sit in one spot for a long period of time? Why is it that we are being forced to sit through school for 8 hours a day, have 20 minutes of recess, and that stops? Recess and physical education classes stop at a certain period of time when you're in school for whatever reason, and naps stop. We need naps. I don't get it, but anyway, how can you expect somebody who has a brain that doesn't operate the same way as everybody else's to operate like everyone else? How do you expect them to do the same things as everyone else? And so why give them a medical condition? Why not? That's why I like, what are those classes called? Those schools are called like Montessori schools. They just adapt to what that particular person needs. And I also love the fact that homeschooling has become more popular because more parents are understanding that my child is special, but not in a negative way. I don't need to label them as something that is bad. I don't need to call them autistic. I don't need to call them ADHD. I don't need to call them ADD or OCD. I can just make sure that they are in an environment where they can thrive and help them to adapt to the adult that they need to be in order to operate in this world, but still be themselves and keep their individuality. That is where we're at right now. And so, yeah, like a lot of kids, when I would be around the students that my mom was teaching, they wouldn't even be like special needs. They just unless they actually had like a physical impairment or something. Unless they were like physically impaired in some way, I really didn't consider them to be special needs. It's like, even on this channel, somebody tried to call me ADHD because they didn't really understand what I was saying or where I was coming from or why I was saying what I was saying. It's typically religious people who like to say things like that, but just because they can't understand it. A religious person can't go into what we would call the astral plane or the spiritual realm, have conversations with higher ether beings, and come back to earth and pretend like they didn't do that. They can't do it. They don't have the capacity to do it because they don't believe that type of stuff is real. People constantly question me and be like, well, how do you talk to God? How do you get information from God? And it's like, I just do. He likes me enough to be able to do it, and he trusts me with the information. I don't go around like a lot of y'all gossip too much. This is off what I'm talking about, but I have to say this. A lot of y'all gossip too much. So if God was to bless you with something like prophecy or words of wisdom, words of knowledge, you wouldn't even give the message to that person, or you wouldn't deliver that type of prophetic word. You would go and talk to other people about it, and that's your problem. Just being honest. Anyway, so yeah, that's not part of an issue to have. That is just something that's different, and it's hard when we are born into a society that wants us to conform so bad, and we're not able to express ourselves and be artistic and be intellectual and be just cool how we want to be. Yeah, we're going to be looked at as if we're crazy because y'all think we're crazy. You just think so. That has nothing to do with science, has nothing to do with facts. A lot of this science nowadays too is fake science. That's going to come out later in the next few years. You just have to keep looking out for that. A lot of it's fake science. The same way when Moses was performing those miracles with Pharaoh and the magicians were mimicking what he was doing but not exactly doing it. He was doing real science, real spiritual science, and those men were doing fake science. Okay? But anyway, because it was a miracle. It was like a God-ordained specific thing to happen. So that's why it's that type of contrast. I'm just using that as an example. It's a whole lot, bruh. But anyway, I wanted to talk about that because it's most of our generation, like Generation Z, Generation Alpha, Generation Omega, a lot of us are indigo, rainbow, crystal children. And I think it's very important for Generation X specifically. Boomers are cool. I just think it's too late for a lot of boomers to accept certain things in life. So I don't really bother with trying to enlighten them on anything. It could happen, but I don't have any boomers in my family that I need to talk to, so it's really harder for me to connect with boomers. The boomers that I had in my family, they passed away and they were awesome. So I don't know. But regardless, though, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. You know, pay attention to your children, pay attention to your grandchildren. My parents are from Generation X, and they now have a total of 5 children and a grandchild. And so, you know, it's really cool that we are a multi-generational family, and we have a lot of cousins. We have a lot of second generation cousins. My family's kind of weird. On my mom's side, she had like a bunch of siblings, and so, but she's the baby of the family. So by the time she was born, she already, you know, like she wasn't born an auntie, but soon after she was born, she became an auntie. So it's like, you know, a lot of her nephews and nieces are my cousins, even though they're around her age. So, you know, then my second cousins are my age. It's just like one of those weird things. That's what happens when you live in the country. It's typical down here. And so, yeah. But that's pretty much it. Yeah. Pay attention to the younger people. I'm not saying coddle them. Some of them need to be coddled because they're dealing with so much trauma. So scratch that. Yes, coddle some of them, but other ones, just, you know, guide them in the right way. Don't be bitter and give bad advice. So many people used to give me and my ex-husband bad advice on our relationship, and once we saw through the BS that they were saying, we still realized that things weren't working out. So we were able to make our own decision to go ahead and split. But it was still like, I thought about it. We had a conversation about it the other day. I was like, why do people give us such bad advice? And he was like, because some people are unhappy in their own life, so they are spreading their negativity. And I'm like, that's dope. So, you know, it just is what it is, man. Yeah. Just pay attention to these younger people, because it's going to be a lot of crazy stuff to happen. So if you don't get it, then you're going to be in for a big surprise. Yep. All right. Shalom, royalty. I'll see you in the next one. Tawada.